course, for India, thorium is important because we don't have too much of uranium.
Conversely, India has massive uranium deposits and almost no uranium. India has been pursuing a solid fuel-based thorium leader since 1950. With steadfast determination, of securing the energy independence.
Most of the time, the solution is no thorium oxide fuel called fuel. We're in the same challenges with fuel source that everybody does. And I have been told informally through friends of the person that have one of the former directors of the Indian nuclear program, when asked, you had it all planned in, what would you do differently? He said, I would have gone molten salt right from the beginning.
Dr. Sinha and his colleagues think that molten salt breeder reactor, am I quoting you correctly? I heard you telling me some time back that you think that the molten salt breeder reactor seems to be the most suitable candidate for a self-sustainable thorium reactor.
What's amazing about molten salt technology is the fact that thorium fuel cycle integrates so easily into the technology. And molten salt is at approximately 6 months, and it reduces the fuel cycle cost. They bring their conceivable economic
Thanks to liquid homogeneity of the heat.
You can use thorium in existing reactors, but the economics are
Liquid fused homogeneity can also enable more efficient consumption of uranium as well.
시그널 보내 널 보면 봤으면 알아채야지 오늘만 몇 번째 널 보며 웃는데 앞으로만 걸면 느껴야지 손이 곁에 머물러 있는데 언제부턴가 난 네가 좋아 지켜줬어 바보야 왜 이렇게 또 내 맘을 몰라 언제까지 이렇게 둔하게 내 친구로만 대할래 내가 원하는 건 그게 아닌데 시그널 보내 시그널 보내 난 너를 원해 난 너를 원해 왜 반응이 없니 나 보이잖아 왜지 못하니
that this was the smartest we were going to be for a while. Looking at stuff, we're in general. So we looked at this type of building.
We got our inspiration by looking at the molten salt reactor. As long as it takes to extract essentially all of the remaining energy in it.
The commercial regulatory structure in the U.S. is currently set up only for light water reactors. The uncertainty in the estimates of the cost and timeline effectively block large-scale private investment in new nuclear reactors. Because no investor would want to put money into a project if they don't have a good sense of when they're going to get a return or how much it'll cost at the beginning.
The NRC regulations specifically spell out prohibitions against fluid-filled reactors, even for national laboratories. You cannot operate fluid-filled reactor more than 1 megawatt without expensive license process, running at about $150 per man-hour. The NRC trusts sophomores in college more with light water reactors than they do national lab scientists with fluid-fueled reactors.
It's been there for ages, since Milton Shaw.
Yes, Shaw is the one who actually decided that we weren't going to do liquid-fueled reactors.
He instituted the Catch-22. We can't do work on molten salt reactors because we just don't know enough about how molten salt reactors work. Well, can we find out how they work? No, because we don't know how they work. It's like, what?
So it's a demonstration reactor cutoff for liquid-fueled reactors is maybe 1 megawatt thermal versus 10 megawatts thermal for solid-fueled reactors. We'd like the demonstration facility to generate meaningful results for a full-size plant on the order of 20 megawatts thermal. Any smaller than that, and it becomes a different machine. Yeah, but just the thermal hydraulics even would be so different that it wouldn't really be a valid comparison.
You know, the state of Missouri passed a resolution that they want to be the first state to have thorium molten salt reactors in their state. every state with reactors has their own nuclear regulatory commission, and there's a provision where they can literally go off on their own. It's just like highway funds. If you don't approve drunk driving level of 0.08, it's like, oh, you can do that, Wisconsin, you can do that, Illinois. Say goodbye to $500 million in highway funds, though, if you do that. So they hold a gun to their heads to do that. Same thing with the NRC. But it would be an extraordinary wake-up call for once, if even one state did it, where if one state was just like, you guys are so out of sync with what current nuclear technology is that we absolutely have to, for the health of our state, go on our own. That would be, the NRC, I'm sure, would have great retribution, is not my words, somebody else's. I thought that was when we discussed that, somebody was like, that would bring down great retribution. And I'm like, I'm sure the great retribution would come down, but at some point someone would be like, hey, why did this state go off on its own and put up with this gigantic, huge penalty they paid, you know? Why would they do that? And maybe it would become a national conversation, and certainly in the decision-making halls of power, they'd be like, has something gone so off the rails here that one state is essentially in one little way willing to secede from the union on this?
The current system incentivizes reactor designers to develop their first projects outside of the United States. And in fact, this has already happened. Some existing nuclear reactor design companies are planning on building their first power plants overseas, in Canada or China or the Philippines, because they don't think it will be possible to build an advanced reactor in the US under the current regulatory system.
We have chosen Canada for a very specific reason. We have a completely new reactor system with a completely profoundly different risk profile.
Canada has a fundamentally different regulatory environment for nuclear power, which is, I would say, very progressive. We do feel that we have a competitive advantage by pursuing this technology in Canada specifically.
Currently, there is no way for us to build a prototype facility or move beyond the laboratory scale work that we're currently doing. We want more than anything to do this in the US, but we've been forced to keep an open mind with respect to the other pathways we could take.
China is building a supply chain in order to manufacture and distribute molten salt reactors, and we are not.
We don't do big science anymore here in the United States. We don't. China is, India is, the Czech Republic is. Jan Ulich, he's got a great budget, and he just bought an obscene amount of FLiBe for pennies on the dollar from Oak Ridge National Laboratories, because he's doing big science over there. And we basically gave it away.
Anything that's different, that's never been done before, it seems like in the nuclear field, everybody wants to be number two. This is one of the flaws that has impeded innovation in the nuclear energy technology area, which is that this is a first mover barrier. Because quite obviously, once the answer comes out as to how NRC will manage that sort of question, everybody knows what that answer is, and everybody else can free ride. On the other hand, the benefits that come from the switch to molten salts, even if we're using uranium at the same rate that you would with light water reactors, are substantial. And what we can learn using solid fuel and what we can develop can be readily applied to build liquid-fueled reactors as well.
Ornell and Berkeley's respective pebble bed designs both make great use of molten salt to offer passive safety.
This is a drain tank.
That's the drain tank.
To drain it back down again, and we've done that a couple of times already.
And eliminate the challenge of high-pressure operation.
If you had a little crack on this and it was starting to weep, it forms a plug.
Self-plugging.
It's self-plug.
That's a nice thing, not being under pressure.
In fact, these reactors are intended to be modular and factory-produced.
We are very interested in a transportable size of these for some of the things like supporting individual refineries or remote power operations.
Ultimately, a much less expensive source of energy than today's reactors.
There's vigorous debates that go on about what is the best and fastest path to get this technology developed. And I think that, it's good for us to have those debates, and it's good for parallel efforts in multiple areas to be underway. The effort on the solid fuel side, I think, is important, is that we can target achievable goals where we can reach certain milestones in a shorter period of time on the solid fuel side. There's just fewer hoops you need to leap through.
Pebble fuel is fairly well understood. It's been being used since like the 70s now.
Well, you know, the next best thing that scales up after molten salt science is fluoride-cooled solid fuels.
So, if molten salt pebble bed reactors can be passively safe and less expensive, why is every single organization shown here investigating, if not dedicating themselves entirely, to the pursuit of liquid fuel?
There's supreme advantages of dissolving the fuel and fission products in the fluorides because you can add and subtract at will. Solid stuff is always going to be expensive fabrication.
Then what do you do with the spent pebbles?
They have an inner carbon core surrounded by a triso matrix, surrounded by an outer layer of graphite. Every time we defuel a pebble, you can actually assay these pebbles using gamma ray spectroscopy to discern what the burnup is of this pebble and whether it should be placed back into the core or whether it should be put in storage.
Then what do you do with the spent pebbles? There was that much more manufacturing and engineering and thought going into these pebbles. But ultimately, from a macroscopic or 50,000-foot view, you still have the same waste problem, except it's now in a far more engineered and therefore much more difficult medium in which to go extract that waste and process it.
Well, it's a lot easier to deal with the chemistry if you don't dilute the fuel into the salt.
Chemistry is not difficult to deal with. Just think about the problems and solve them. I would pose this question. What is easier? Running a liquid past a solid in order to transfer the heat, or having the fuel be a liquid and use that in and of itself? So I would argue that actually combining the two is easier. Sure, it's more chemistry, but so what? I'm a chemist. There are lots and lots of chemists, on the planet. And a lot of them are a hell of a lot smarter than I am. So, go solve the problem. Oh, wait a second. Oak Ridge already solved the problem from 1951 to 1974.